Hello guys, 2 weeks ago I made this video explaining how South Park completely pulled the rug on the current administration's lacking desire to release certain unredacted files. And you all seem to have loved it. So since South Park literally followed up with an episode containing the exact plot that I predicted, I guess that's a green light from the universe for me to go even further, because South Park just gave up the perfect layup to do so.
I'm Peter Thiel and I know about the Antichrist.
And generally, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but there's just something about truth. When I see it, when I hear it, it just speaks to me. And this one has been screaming at me for years. And for good old YouTube's sake, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just a guy on the internet commenting on what South Park allegedly is referring to in the current season for entertainment purpose only. And I would never draw any crazy conclusions like this one. Now you guys, do your magic in the comments down below and let's push this one far into the algorithm. And if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments down below so we can all learn together. And without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching. You truly make my life so much better by watching my videos. So let's
Buckle up, buckaroo!
and let's get into it. Do you ever get that feeling that billionaires aren't just making the world worse by accident, but on purpose? Because that is exactly what South Park just took a shot at. They're not fixing the world, they are building a cage around it, creating the problems and then selling us the cure. AI for efficiency, surveillance for safety, and digital ID for protection. It's all branding for the same thing: control. And that's why the latest South Park season hit so hard, and why they won't let it go. What started as small BP jokes on Trump has evolved into a full-blown warning about this administration and the system quietly being built around it. A system that will change every single one of our lives forever. Because behind all the jokes, the chaos and the absurdity, there's something way too real about it. And here's the plot twist that most people actually missed. Trump isn't even the real villain of this season. He's just the introduction. He's the puppet and the distraction. The real power, the real danger are the billionaires behind the curtain. The ones funding the software, writing the codes, and deciding what truth would look like tomorrow. They're the ones pulling the strings. Most people still believe that rich people are basically like them, just with more money. They want peace, stability, and success. But the higher up you go, the colder it gets. They just want power, and they know that it's either them or somebody else. And when you start to look into Peter Thiel and his hobbies, it kinda hits different. This isn't your average tech nerd. This is the founder of Palantir, a company that tracks people through data for governments across the globe. A man obsessed with eternal life, blood transfusion of younger individuals, and talking about the Antichrist like he's giving a TED talk on salvation through software. He's not coding the future, he's trying to own it. And that is exactly what his software enables. A system that tracks every single individual using AI that eventually could turn into a tyrannic system of full governmental control. A system that is referred to as Mark of the Beast. And most of these guys even claim to be religious, and this does in fact bring us straight to what the Bible described thousands of years ago, a system that marks, tracks, and judges every single human being on earth. Does this ring a bell? Talking about Palantir? Well, according to the Bible, the mark of the beast is a mark that will be forced on people during the end of the world. And during this time, coming from Revelation chapter 13, there will be two prominent figures who will rule the final world government. We have the beast of the earth, also known as the false prophet. Then we have the beast of the sea, also known as the Antichrist. Wait, the Antichrist? Isn't that exactly what the tech billionaire who's building the global surveillance software and preaching about digital salvation is obsessed with warning us about? So why is he building the very software described in prophecies, while telling us that we need to take the Antichrist more seriously? Well, karmic retribution. Every evil act leaves karmic debt. And if the act is revealed beforehand, well, the burden then is transformed to whoever ignores the warning. For example, if I offer you a poisoned apple and you take the bite, that is evil on my sheet, karmic debt. But if I offer you a poisoned apple and beforehand I tell you that it's poisoned and you still take the bite, well, then the sheet is clear on my end and the burden is transferred to you. So when you see these powerful entities making outrageous statements or hiding at the truth in plain sight, they don't think you're stupid. They just think that you are powerless to do anything about it. Like when the King of England last year get this super weird portrait made to celebrate his career with this butterfly as a metaphor for a spiritual transformation, and when mirrored and turned on its head, it's literally a giant depiction of the devil. And once you realize that if you rearrange the letters in Peter Thiel, it literally spells the reptile. Yeah, these could just be the wildest coincidences, or it's just part of the script. Because Peter Thiel looks like he blinks sideways and talks like an AI that almost learned empathy. Well, still got some room to grow, buddy. So to summarize, Trump was the puppet getting JD Vance through the door into the White House, a 4-year setup to position Vance for power in 2028. He'll give full access to Peter Thiel, who built his entire career, and the system will slowly take more and more freedom as long as we all allow it with silent consent. So it's not only in South Park, it's also in the real world, where Peter Thiel has been running around in San Francisco having these Antichrist lectures where he is discussing that it isn't a demon, it is a system. A self-replicating machine built from our sins, greed, and desperate need for validation. Sounds familiar? Because that is exactly how modern AI and algorithms work. From our behavior, our impulses, and our worst instincts. And this is where South Park kind of went from being funny to kind of dark and deep for me, because Palantir, Thiel's real company, already sells predictive surveillance software. It tracks people, flags patterns, and detects potential threats. Now pair that with the removal of cash and the introduction of CBDCs, well, you got complete control. And if you still think this is a kind of far-fetched, outrageous conspiracy, well, I completely understand, because as I said, I'm not a conspiracy guy. But you know who already is using this logic? Well, China, with its social critic system. Say the wrong thing, step out of line, and the machine will mark you as untrustworthy. They've had this system straight out of the Mark of the Beast playbook for years. A digital score that controls what you can buy, where you can travel, and even who you can talk to if you run a red light or say the wrong thing online. You can't buy a bus ticket or even get McDonald's. And guess what? The UK just introduced a digital ID that are now required to even get a job. And why would they stop there? It's a slow rollout. They've been stripping away privacy and freedom, one update at the time. And in 2023, over 12,000 people were arrested in the UK for social media posts. And the system we see in China, that's the dream destination. Because all these world leaders that we see fighting like enemies on TV, behind closed doors, well, they're all buddies. They'll all meet for lunch at WEF, pat each other on the back, and talk about how beautifully the Chinese model works. And you don't have to dig deep to find that they're just all in the big boys club and we're not a part of it. And now, well, the UK is their next experiment. And if you think they don't want to attempt to bring this to the Americas, well, I have some bad news for you. And that is why in the South Park season, we see JD Vance and Peter Thiel, they're on quick dial, scheming a plan hidden away from the public and even away from Trump. While Thiel is getting access to the girls' bathroom, JD Vance is promising to bring him access to everything once he is the president.
If I'm going to learn what these numbers mean, I'm going to need access to every government database.
You will have it, Mr. Thiel. Nothing is more important.
Because Peter Thiel created JD Vance. He paid for his career, he funded his campaign, he molded his message, and positioned him as the next political successor. It's a direct political commentary that when you vote for a president, You're also voting for a lot of unseen forces standing behind him. This is why everyone from the far left to even the far right is very unhappy with the administration so far, and why most presidency kind of feel like a mistake in the aftermath. Either they start another war nobody asked for, or they let the technocrats take another bite of the cake. Most people are genuinely born with good intention and then led down a darker path. And there's always been this fascination with psychedelics among the powerful circles. They see it as a way to tap into higher knowledge or a shortcut to God. But there are other reports as well. People experimenting with psychedelics often talking about hearing this voice, something ancient and very convincing, something that whispers that humanity must be reduced, a way to improve the species by cutting off the fat. Now imagine all these billionaires, the same one experimenting with these drugs and funding AI, hearing that same voice. They are all on the same page. A voice telling them that they are the chosen to save the world by controlling and reducing population. It suddenly makes sense why they're obsessed with evolution, with building new and improved version of humanity. That famous Peter Thiel interview now makes perfect sense. He doesn't see the current state of humanity continuing, but perhaps some more evolved, less populated version of it.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
Yes?
I don't know. I would
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in
Should the
this.
human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body.
And that is why when South Park showed JD Vance needing to get rid of this satanic baby in the season of South Park, well, it can only be the files. It is the only thing standing between him and ultimate power in the White House. Because if his donors, his puppet masters, and everyone backing him is exposed in these files, well, it will all crumble into nothing. But if he gets into power and he can complete the transfer of power into Peter Thiel to Palantir and enter this system into our government, into our systems, well, if we did nothing about it, well, that is us giving the silent consent for them to take away everything. And that's the only thing we can do about it, is to keep talking about it, make people more aware about it. And that is why we have to spread these videos and spread the information. It's the only thing we can do, because if we just allow it to happen, well, their karmic retribution will be completely erased and their sheet of karmic death will be erased, and they can happily implement everything, and there's nothing we can do about it. That was my TED Talk for the day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Spread some love. I love you guys. Have a kiss.